So, imagine you're spending, I don't know, hundreds of hours building this massive, meticulously organized library right inside your head.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
Right. So every new vocabulary word you learn, every complex grammar rule, every interesting fact from an expert, they all get perfectly shelved in their designated sections. You put in the work, you know, you possess the knowledge.
Yeah, and you feel really confident when you're just, walking the aisles of that internal library. I mean, everything makes perfect sense when you're just looking at it.
Exactly. But then you step out into the real world. You're at a networking event or maybe joining a new class or just grabbing coffee with a stranger.
Right.
And someone casually knocks on the front door of your beautifully curated library and says, "Hey, tell me a little bit about yourself."
Oh, man, the ultimate dreaded question.
It is. And what happens? The door just jams shut. You're standing on the inside, desperately staring at all your beautiful books, but the handle won't budge. Like you literally cannot get the words out.
It's an incredibly agonizing experience, and it's really common. We're exploring the massive, often super frustrating gap between passively understanding information and actively communicating it under pressure.
Yeah, that freeze.
Yeah, exactly, that cognitive freeze. Today's deep dive is fundamentally about that deer in the headlights moment that happens to all of us when we're put on the spot and, how to systematically dismantle that anxiety.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We're pulling our insights today from an excerpt in a guide called Finding Your Voice, The Path to Confident Speaking.
Right.
And specifically, we're focusing on a really deeply relatable story featured on the Easy English podcast. It's called Talk About Yourself with Confidence. Our mission for this deep dive is to figure out why that library door jams in the first place and, more importantly, how to fix it.
Yeah, to understand the underlying mechanics of this freeze, we really need to look at the protagonist of this source material. Her name is Maya, and she represents, she's the ultimate dedicated learner.
Oh, absolutely. And if you're listening to this right now, there is a very high chance you have a lot in common with Maya.
For sure.
I mean, the text tells us she studies English every single day. She is not slacking off. She watches videos, she reads books, she practices her listening skills relentlessly.
She's doing everything right.
Yeah. And her comprehension, meaning her ability to understand what is being said to her by other people, is excellent.
Our internal library is fully stocked and the lights are completely on.
But then comes the trigger.
That seemingly innocent, wide open question.
Right, the tell me about yourself question. The source material notes this drastic, immediate shift in Maya's physical and mental state the exact moment those words are spoken out loud.
It's visceral.
Totally. She becomes incredibly nervous. Her mind just goes completely empty. The words she absolutely knows, like the words she was literally just reviewing that morning, vanish.
Yeah.
She shrinks back and starts speaking very, very quietly.
Which, by the way, is a classic physiological response. She's physically shrinking back, trying to become invisible, because the sudden heat of the spotlight feels like a literal threat to her nervous system.
Wow, a threat. Yeah, and the resulting output is just heartbreaking for her.
It really is.
Instead of showcasing this rich, complex proficiency she spent hours and hours building, she reverts to the absolute bare minimum. She gives these tiny, fragmented answers.
Right, like, I'm a student.
Exactly. I'm a student. I like music. And that's it. The conversation just kind of dies.
You can imagine the psychological toll that takes on a dedicated learner. I mean, the text highlights that after these conversations, Maya is left feeling deeply disappointed in herself.
Oh, totally. She's probably so frustrated.
Exactly. She's asking, why is it so hard to talk about myself? I know English, but I lose confidence the second I start speaking. She feels like her external output is betraying her internal intelligence.
It's infuriating because she feels like a fraud, even though she genuinely put in the work.
Right.
So, what's actually happening here? Like, why doesn't her high comprehension automatically translate into high speaking ability?
Well, this raises a really important question about how our brains process language and information in general. Maya is expecting her internal knowledge to seamlessly translate into external output.
Right.
She's judging her spoken performance against her listening comprehension level. But what she doesn't realize, and honestly what trips up so many of us in any new skill, is that active speaking requires an entirely different cognitive pathway than passive listening.
Wait, so is it kind of like, okay, just because I can watch a cooking show and, deeply appreciate a beautifully plated Michelin star meal, that doesn't mean I automatically know how to chop the onions, manage the heat, and cook it from scratch. Like, it's a completely different muscle.
That is a fantastic way to visualize it.
Yeah.
One skill set is entirely receptive, you're just taking it in. The other is productive, you're creating it from thin air. When you're listening to someone else speak, they're providing all the architecture for you. They're supplying the vocabulary, arranging the grammar, setting the context.
They're doing all the heavy lifting.
Exactly. Your brain's Wernicke's area, which handles comprehension, basically just has to decode the signals. It's a relatively smooth process.
So you're basically just riding in the passenger seat.
You are. But when you're speaking, especially in response to a wide-open, unstructured question like, tell me about yourself.
Oh, man, yeah.
Your brain is suddenly forced into the driver's seat. It has to invent the architecture. It has to scan the library for the right vocabulary, apply the grammatical rules in real time, and then coordinate with Broca's area to physically move your vocal cords, tongue, and lips to produce the sound.
Wow, when you put it like that, that is a massive sudden spike in cognitive demand.
It's huge. The system simply gets overwhelmed.
Which makes total sense of why Maya's mind goes blank. The system crashes. Well, this perfectly sets up the turning point in Maya's story. Because Maya doesn't just sit at home feeling defeated, Ron.
No, she doesn't.
She takes action and joins a small English conversation group. And here she meets a friendly teacher named Daniel, and the narrative completely shifts from diagnosing the problem to finding the cure.
Yeah, Daniel is highly observant. He watches Maya interact within the group setting, and he pinpoints the issue almost immediately.
What does he notice?
Well, he sees that she understands the English being spoken around her perfectly well. She's tracking the jokes. She's nodding at the right times. She isn't lacking vocabulary at all.
Right.
What she lacks is the confidence to navigate that massive spike in cognitive demand when the spotlight swings to her.
So after class, Daniel pulls her aside. And he delivers what I think is arguably the most crucial mindset shift in this entire deep dive.
Oh, absolutely.
He tells her, people don't expect perfect English. They just want to understand you.
It's a very simple statement, but it represents a radical shift in how we approach communication. He's moving the goalposts from a defensive posture to a really generous one.
And here's where it gets really interesting to me. If you think about traditional education models, whether you're learning a language or math or history.
Oh, yeah, school.
Right? We're usually trained to prioritize perfection above all else. We're graded on avoiding errors. You get an A if you have perfect grammar. You get a glaring red X if you make a mistake.
Definitely.
Doesn't striving for that kind of academic perfection actually make us worse communicators in the real world?
It absolutely hinders us, and it goes right back to that concept of cognitive load we were just unpacking.
How so?
Well, perfectionism is an incredibly heavy burden for the brain to carry during a real-time interaction. If you're stepping into a conversation and your primary internal directive is do not make a grammatical mistake,
Right.
you're essentially running a massive, energy-draining software program in the background of your mind.
Oh, I love that analogy. It's like having 20 memory-heavy tabs open on your internet browser. The whole system slows to an absolute crawl.
Precisely. Because your brain is actively running that grammar checking software, analyzing every single word, checking for subject-verb agreement, and anticipating where you might trip up before the word even reaches your mouth.
Which takes up all your brain power.
Exactly. That leaves virtually zero processing power to actually access the vocabulary you already know, let alone focus on connecting with the human being standing right in front of you.
Okay, so when Daniel says, they just want to understand you, he's giving Maya permission to close all those extra tabs.
Yes. He removes the demand for perfection. He shifts her goal from passing this invisible academic test to simply sharing her story with another person.
Wow.
And once that pressure is lifted, the brain suddenly has the free RAM, like the processing space, to actually function and retrieve the words.
That is incredibly freeing. And I think the source material makes a vital point here. A mindset shift isn't enough on its own.
No, it's really not.
Because, you can stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself perfection doesn't matter all day long. But when you're at a party, the adrenaline hits and the nerves spike, velocity goes out the window.
Completely out the window.
You need something solid to hold on to.
Yeah, inspiration without practical application usually fizzles out. Daniel understands this perfectly, which is why he immediately follows up his mindset advice with a very concrete, actionable framework.
Right. He tells Maya that when she talks about herself, she needs to rely on a simple structure. He literally writes down 5 specific points for her to hit every single time.
Let's hear them.
Okay, so number 1, her name. Number 2, where she is from. Number 3, what she does. Number 4, her hobbies. And number 5, her goals or dreams.
Notice the elegance in how this is structured, too.
What do you mean?
Well, it's a built-in warm-up for the brain. It starts with the most concrete, undeniable facts, your name and your origin.
Oh, true.
These require almost zero cognitive effort to retrieve. You don't have to invent anything. Then, once you're already speaking and the momentum has started, it slowly ramps up to slightly more complex, abstract ideas like your hobbies and your future dreams.
That is so smart. And he goes a step further. He doesn't just give her the bullet points. He provides the exact scaffolding phrases to build those points on.
He really sets her up for success.
He does. He hands her the architectural blueprints with phrases like, let me tell you a little about myself. I'm currently learning English. One of my hobbies is reading. I'm working on becoming more confident.
And Maya takes those blueprints and truly commits to them. This is where her dedication shifts from passive consumption to targeted active practice.
Right.
She decides to run this framework every single day, utilizing some very specific resources to attack the problem from different angles.
Okay, so Daniel gives her this blueprint. But a blueprint is useless if you don't actually pour the concrete, right?
Exactly.
How does she actually build this into her daily life without getting overwhelmed? Let's look at her toolkit.
Yeah, let's break it down.
First, she tackles the physical anxiety of speaking at home. She uses a book called Short Stories in English for Beginners from the Teach Yourself series. But she isn't just reading it quietly on the couch.
She reads the dialogues out loud.
Right. The text notes she feels shy at first, even just doing it alone in her room. But slowly, her pronunciation improves, and her actual physical voice becomes stronger.
Reading out loud is a profoundly effective strategy because it isolates the variables.
How so?
It separates the physical act of speaking from the mental act of composing. She doesn't have to worry about inventing the sentences or choosing the grammar.
Words are already there.
Exactly. She's just practicing moving her jaw, her tongue, her vocal cords to create the sounds of a new language. She's strengthening the physical instrument in a safe environment without the stress of someone waiting for a response.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. Then, a few days later, she layers in a second resource. She starts reading a book called Learn English Through Stories. 16 stories to improve your English grammar and English vocabulary.
Okay, so stepping it up.
Yeah, the specific goal here is to learn useful everyday vocabulary so she can accurately describe herself and her interests within that 5-point framework Daniel gave her.
See, this is a massive structural upgrade from how most people study. Instead of trying to memorize sterile lists of random words on flashcards.
Which is so boring.
So boring and ineffective. She's learning vocabulary through narratives. By seeing the words in context, she's learning how they behave and connect to each other. Context creates stronger neural pathways, making those specific words much easier to retrieve when she actually needs them.
And her routine goes even further.
Yeah.
Every single morning while she's walking or making breakfast, she listens to an audio program called Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native.
Nice.
While she's listening, she repeats simple sentences out loud. Things like, I enjoy learning new things. I want to improve my confidence. I love meeting new people.
She's engaging in habit stacking. Yeah, she's combining an automatic physical movement like walking or cooking with verbal repetition. This integrates the language into her daily physical reality rather than keeping it isolated as a purely academic exercise.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate for a second here.
Go for it.
Looking at Maya's intense routine, the daily repetition, reciting the same 5-point framework, repeating these specific scaffolding phrases out loud every morning, aren't we just training people to memorize a script?
I see where you're going.
Right. Like, nobody wants to sound like a robot reading from a teleprompter when they're trying to have a genuine human connection.
It's a very common concern, and on the surface, it might look like rote memorization. But think about a musician learning to play the piano.
Okay.
When you're first learning, you sit at the bench and play your scales C, D, E, F, G over and over and over again. You don't practice those repetitive, somewhat boring scales because you're planning to go on stage and perform a scale for the audience.
No, nobody buys tickets to that.
Right.
The path of least resistance. Which brings us to the ultimate test of all this preparation. The narrative takes us back to the conversation group. Maya is sitting there, and the dreaded moment finally arrives. Daniel smiles and asks the open-ended question. Maya, can you introduce yourself?
Now, the source material gets incredibly honest here, and it's a detail we really cannot gloss over.
It's so important.
The text explicitly states that Maya still felt nervous at first. The magic didn't happen overnight. The fear didn't just evaporate because she practiced reading out loud.
That is such a crucial, comforting detail for anyone learning a new skill. She still felt the fear. She still occasionally forgot a word or spoke a little too softly at the very beginning.
Yeah.
But the fundamental difference this time was that she didn't stop. The door didn't jam.
She felt the nervousness, but she didn't let the presence of fear dictate her actions. She had her paved road, her 5-point framework, to fall back on when the cognitive load spiked.
She takes a deep breath, and she executes the structure perfectly. She tells the group, "Hi, my name is Maya. I'm from Morocco. I'm currently improving my English because I want to travel and meet new people. One of my hobbies is reading and listening to podcasts. And I'm working on becoming more confident when speaking English."
Notice how she strategically incorporated her vulnerability into that final point.
Oh, yeah.
By openly stating to the group that she's actively working on her confidence, she instantly disarms any potential judgment. She owns her current process, which takes immense courage.
And the reaction from the group is beautiful. The room gets quiet as they listen to her story. Then people smile. They start naturally asking her follow-up questions. They tell her, "Great job."
That validation is huge.
It is. And the text notes that for the very first time, Maya actually feels relaxed while speaking English.
What's fascinating here is the sequence of how her confidence developed. So often we tell ourselves, I'll speak up once I feel confident, or, I'll launch the project once I feel ready.
All the time.
We treat confidence as a prerequisite. We think we have to wait for this magical feeling of bravery to wash over us before we can take action. But Maya's story and the explicit lesson from the source material proves the exact opposite.
She realizes that night that confidence doesn't come from having perfect English or having zero fear. It comes from the practice and from trusting the framework.
Right. Confidence is a lagging indicator. It's the result of taking the action, surviving the discomfort, and realizing you're okay on the other side. It doesn't magically precede your ability to speak. It's forged in the fire of actually speaking through the fear.
So, what does this all mean for you listening to this right now? If we synthesize this entire journey, the core message is that your story matters.
Truly.
Your voice matters, regardless of whatever messy stage of learning you happen to be in. You don't have to wait for some elusive state of perfection to finally participate in the conversation. The key is to start simple. Speak clearly, speak slowly, and trust the foundation you've built.
Let's do a quick recap of the territory we just covered.
Sounds good.
We started by identifying the trap of passive understanding, that frustrating illusion that just because we can consume information easily, we should naturally be able to produce it under pressure. We explored how perfectionism creates a massive cognitive load, effectively freezing our ability to communicate.
And then we looked at the intervention, right? Dropping the crushing need for perfection and relying on a simple 5-point framework to lower the cognitive demand. Name, origin, occupation, hobbies, goals.
Yes.
And most importantly, we saw the absolute necessity of putting in the daily reps, using targeted reading and audio materials to physically practice out loud until those conversational structures become a reflex.
We learned that the fear might still be sitting right there next to you, but with a paved road of practice, you can speak right through it.
Which brings us all the way back to where we started, standing in that massive, beautifully organized library inside your brain. The door is jammed. You feel the panic rising.
But Maya's story shows us that you don't need to kick the door down with a flawless, eloquent speech.
Exactly. You just need to slide one simple practice sentence under the door, and then another. And slowly, the door unlocks.
I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder, something that builds directly on Maya's breakthrough.
Let's hear it.
The source material proves that people genuinely just want to understand you, not judge your perfection. But think about this. What if the very mistakes we try so hard to hide, a stumbled word, a moment of visible vulnerability, a slightly imperfect accent, what if those are actually the exact things that make our stories feel more relatable? What if your imperfect delivery isn't a flaw to be fixed, but actually your greatest tool for building a genuine human connection with the person listening?
No. Perfection is intimidating. Imperfection is inviting. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep learning, and please keep sharing your own stories. We'll see you next time.